The tension between the northern and southern states that led to the Civil War began before the issue of slavery was even raised. Economic differences between the South and the North were ultimately what led to the Civil War. The price of cotton, the South's defining crop, had skyrocketed in the 1850s, and the value of slaves, who were considered property at the time, rose exponentially. By 1860, the per capita wealth of Southern whites was twice that of Northerners, and 3/5 of the wealthiest individuals in the country were Southerners. But the economy of the Northern states was rapidly modernizing and diversifying. Industrialization had taken root here. Northern states had invested heavily in an expansive and varied transportation system and financial industries, as well as large communication networks that featured inexpensive and widely available sources of media. The Southern economy was based principally on large plantations that relied on slave labor. Rather than invest in factories or railroads, as Northerners had done, the Southerners invested their money in slaves and even more land. The South wished to take slavery into the Western territories, while the North was committed to keeping them open to white labor only. Meanwhile, the newly formed Republican Party, whose members were strongly opposed to the westward expansion of slavery into new states, was gaining prominence. Public opinion about slavery became very divided, with more people believing that the bondage of slavery should be eliminated due to moral reasons or interest in protecting labor. With increase in popularity, a Republican, Abraham Lincoln, won the 1860 election, further escalating tensions. His victory, without a single Southern electoral vote and only 40% of the popular vote, was a clear signal to the Southern states that they had lost all influence. Lincoln took office on November 6, 1860, and the Southern states seceded shortly after. Later that year, the war began with the Confederate Army attacking Fort Beaufort. With the Southern states winning majority of the engages during the first 2 years of the war, the North only gained the upper hand because of political and economic strategies. The political strategies that led to a Northern victory were the Union blockade, industrialization, and Emancipation Proclamation. In 1861, Lincoln ordered the Union Navy to establish a blockade of all Confederate ports. This prevented any exportation of cotton, the main source of Southern wealth, and blocked their trading routes with foreign countries for supplies or weapons. Also, industrialization played a pivotal role in the Civil War. As a result of industrialization, the North had large railway systems that could transport supplies and soldiers quickly and efficiently. The South still had to use infantry marches and horseback to move soldiers around and transport supplies. The North was able to attack different Southern fronts before reinforcements could come and stay supplied while the Southern soldiers lacked proper supplies. Despite being blockaded and undersupplied, the South still had superior generals, and the war effort didn't change until Abraham Lincoln passed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation declared all slaves in America were free if they came to the northern states. Southern factories, farms, and manual labor was entirely worked by slaves during the war, as all the men were participating in the war. Once the Emancipation Proclamation was released, thousands of escaped slaves came to the North, effectively crippling all of the South's manufacturing and food production. Losing a critical portion of their labor force and having many of the escaped slaves join the Union Army effectively broke the Confederate war effort. On April 9, 1865, Robert E. Lee surrendered the Confederate Army to Ulysses S. Grant, hereby ending the war. It became evident that the causes of the war, industrialization, and slavery, greatly affected the outcome of the war, allowing the North to find victory over the South.